You built a gym, you bought the assets, you bought all the kit, you've got light, rate, heating, it's cost you a fortune, all these businesses. Somebody contacts you or somebody goes to try and do what they're supposed to do and they don't do their job properly. And now you can change that by, 10, 20, 30, 40%. That's massive customer experience improvement, or quite often cash that just falls straight through to your bottom line because you've already got the fixed cost. Welcome to the Implement AI podcast, the podcast where we explore the impact of AI on your business. I'm Piers, Linney, and alongside my co-host and co-founder of Implement AI, Dr. Aalok Shukla, we cover the real-world applications and impact of how AI can be practically applied to drive growth and efficiency in your organization. We cut through the jargon to focus on actionable strategies and use cases to highlight the transformational power of AI. Let's dive into today's conversation. I'm Piers.
I'm Aalok.
Right, where are you in Lisbon, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah, I'm just going up and down, like from London, Manchester.
I was in Morocco before, back in Lisbon. Looking forward to being in London in a bit for our events and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, we've got a few events coming up, which we'll come on to that. So it's the Implement AI podcast. If you're new to the podcast, you can find us on YouTube, on Apple, Spotify, all the places you find your podcast. And please do, if you're on YouTube especially, please do all the usual stuff, like, subscribe, ring the bell. And if you're on Apple, yeah, it does help.
Even Apple Health. If you're on Apple, like if you're in front, write a review. We love hearing from you, like, what your business is or what different things are and what you learned, and it'd be great. Or even feedback on what to cover on the other ones. We really appreciate it. We read everything.
We get very good feedback on the podcast. So, and it really does help us sort of understand what it is you want, the content. We've got some fantastic guests coming up, some real sort of some real movers and shakers in the world of AI. So look out for those. And I think what we'll do today, we might start doing this every 4 podcasts, maybe once every 4 podcasts, is start talking about the reality. So we try and be very practical in this podcast. And we talk about, putting AI to work and deploying AI agents and AI workers, digital workers. We can't decide what to call them. We're actually about to start fundraising, nod, nod, wink, wink, if you're listening to our podcast. So we're working on I can't even say the word, nomenclature, aren't we? Or how we name stuff.
This is the Jerry Maguire episode. Show me the work, basically, right?
And show me the money. Yeah. So this is going to be, show me the work. So as we were sort of going through and doing our investment deck, we were putting together, case studies and testimonials and looking at what we're actually doing. And it is absolutely fascinating. And, some of these things I think it's just important for people to understand and see what works. You hear so much about AI and should I build it? Should I buy it? AI projects failing, and and some cases there might be if you're going to try and do something which the technology is not quite there yet. But we always say, we play in the box where this technology works, right? It delivers value, and I'm going to show you there's an ROI. So we're going to go through, I think in this episode, some real studies. We're going to take out the name, protect the innocent. We all say to all of our customers, right, your config is IP as well. So we're not going to go too much down into the detail, just give you a high level understanding of.
Exactly. Because the whole thing you got to understand is that what we're talking about is a new team. And so the question people always ask is like, what can it actually do? Can you give me some real examples? And let's go into a bit more detail so we can kind of see all of that kind of stuff.
So let's just set it up there. So let's go back to the kind of agents, like interactive action analysts. So we'll set up the kind of agents the way we describe them. And again, I did lots of keynotes and people say, oh, well, where your slides are good. Where do you get them from? What do you mean? All of our content, this podcast, all of our playbook. Yeah, it's what we do. It's not like, oh, we're all sitting around there having smoking a big one, thinking about what should we put in a document today. It's literally from sometimes, I have to admit, sometimes the complexity and the pain of delivering these solutions. That's where it's coming from. It's a real deal.
Absolutely. Even this week, I had 2 conversations with 2 different clients. And from that, I noticed gaps and we put different things in place and we kind of optimize it. But let's take a step back, okay? So why do you come to implement AI? If you want a digital workforce, AI workforce, what is an AI workforce? Basically, it's new colleagues that can add value in different departments. And if you think about things in a kind of big picture, think about a whole new kind of tower block, for example, of new workers that can join your company to augment the team you've already got. So the team you got, brilliant, know everything about your business, and you want to make sure they're doing the most valuable thing possible. Let's talk about this new tower block, basically, there's two layers to this. You've got the executives. Now, they are basically trying to understand what's going on in the business. They will be managing, they'll be going through different things. And for that, there's what we call our command. That's like the AOS command. And what that will then do is help the executives see everything that's going on across all the systems, CRM, finance, meetings, chats, emails, in a way that you couldn't see before, basically, right? And act on it.
And besides that, Aalok, and it lets you see all your AI workers are doing as well across the whole platform, our workforce platform. So it's not like Claude OpenAI connect to do things. It's the whole package.
Everything, exactly. So you can equally say, show me the last 100 emails that I sent that nobody replied to me, or you could also say, show me what's going on in the trends from all the phone calls that are happening, because your AIOS workforce analyst is connected to all your phone calls as well. You can do all that stuff, and you can also do actions. So that's level one. Then inside the workforce bit, which we're kind of focusing on, so this is where you've got digital workers that will actually fill capacity or add capacity in your business to drive revenue, capacity, or experience, basically, right? And there's three groups of workers there. There's the interactive workers, which basically are voice calls, live chat, WhatsApp, booking, qualifying, triaging, reactivating for employees or customers or partners, that kind of stuff. Then you've got your action agents. These are moving data, filling forms, writing records, the hands of the workforce. That could be operating your computer or updating systems via API. And the third one is analyst agents. These ones are basically reading, analyzing, surfacing insights at calls, emails, documents, dashboard, turning unstructured information into actions. That could be phone calls, tickets, messages, emails, documents, and surfacing opportunities within there. So,
or they can do analysis externally, can't they? If you want them to as well, like.
Exactly. So whether it's research data or on different people and different things like that, so there. So the point of like what we provide is an out of the box capability for teams for your executive layer and also team for your operational layer, basically, right? So now let's talk about examples of like what they can actually do in your business, because basically the executives can then see insights, productivity, do more stuff, and then the voice agents and the the computer use agents and the analyst agents can then add more stuff within there.
Aalok, just before you go into that detail there, so you mentioned the word C there. So the C is the insights, and what we find, and we said this before on the pod, is that quite often where a lot of our customers start is the analysis, the seeing. That doesn't mean you've got to change anything. It's all internal looking. And that's where you're going to find where the cracks are. That's where you're going to find where the value leakage is. So often it's the see and the insights before the do, isn't it?
So this is the writer down, first of all, right? People are saying, I know AI is important. I know I should do something. What should I do? And I'll tell you the trap that all companies fall into. The senior leaders say, we're going to do something in AI. They'll call in some different department heads, and then everybody's got a different opinion about what they think can help their department or something which they think more likely could be innovative to experiment and try. But this is not linked to what the business needs at all, basically, right? So that's when the first problems that you can happen, because you can then start down a path where you work on the wrong use case, basically. So the point here is that to focus in on understanding and servicing what the real issues are in the business.
We can go through this in those blocks, I think. So interactive, action. And the action is really interesting when we talk getting onto computer use agents, because that's something that you kind of read about it, and people don't really understand the power of these things. And also, I'll talk about your prompt, which is nuts, but we'll come back to that. But we'll do interactive action and analyst. Like I said, people say to us, I was at the a Salesforce yesterday, day before yesterday, and they announced it was the opening of the AI center in the city. Very nice building for clients and some of the Salesforce venture startups. And we were talking there really about the buy, the build, and you had the CIO of National Trust, the AI director and infrastructure architect from another large company as well, or the Pets at Home, that was it. And we had this panel conversation about all this stuff. And the issue is that people think that he was saying that we buy commodity and we build differentiation. But I think that building differentiation doesn't necessarily mean you literally build it yourself. You can build differentiation on a platform like ours through the config.
Exactly. You build the differentiation in the capabilities and decisions of the agents, basically, right? That's the whole point. Building all the infrastructure. Think about it, right? Like if you wanted to fit out your perfect offices, you would be much better off if you already had like the building kind of like construction with all the concrete and the raw wiring there, and then you can fit out the interior of all the places. You'd be much faster at getting to where you want to get to and fitting out the way that is, versus actually having to then dig the ground, build the foundations, do everything like that. The time to value is much higher. And also if you made a mistake, because the thing is here, technology keeps moving. If you made a mistake and you put the wrong infrastructure in, you're going to have to like redo it basically, right?
And not in that, Aalok. So we're going to show you now. This is the snapshot of what we're doing, right? This is our experience across multiple organizations, multiple sizes, across multiple sectors, with multiple different, let's call it priorities. Now, if you're trying to do this yourself, all you see is your organization trying to do it the way you want to do it. And quite often what we find is, we had a pilot the other day where they kind of say, oh no, we're going to have a look at it doing ourselves. What we tend to find is that 3 months later they come back because they realize that by the time you built it, it's out of date.
Or the team member that said they could create a pilot can't actually support and do it, and their salary costs more than what our program would have cost, basically.
Yeah, and it's not ISO certified. Anyway, we could keep going on. Let's go into the detail.
So what I'm going to do, before I go into the agents, I'm going to talk about industries, right? So just to understand, for example, property investment education, energy, and access within there, healthcare and pharmacy, wealth management, domiciliary care, franchise companies, recruitment, PE companies, cleaning, facilities management, logistics, events and community. Just a snapshot of some of the use cases we're going to talk about today. These are the sectors that we've been working on. And I'll also tell you a little bit about what kind of systems, because people say, oh, but we have this system, we have that system, basically. I'll just give an example, right? I'm going to talk about CRM, database, telephony, email, domain-specific platforms, and enrichment signal stuff. So for example, in CRM and database, examples we're going to be talking about worked through Salesforce, Shopify, custom CRMs where people have even built it themselves, or even domain-specific platforms, like in terms of the health-specific ones for clocking in and clocking out, specific pharmacy platforms, so specific facilities management platforms to manage jobs, specific prescription management platforms, Royal Mail, secure platforms, and then all these kind of things also like Slack, Teams, Aircall, 3CX, 8x8.
I know it goes from this spectrum of this reasonably old software with no API. I mean, using a computer use agent to go and log into it and do stuff and extract data, all the way through to, was talking about Salesforce, we do quite a bit of integration to Salesforce, to what they're now building is a headless CRM system. So it's actually designing to be integrated. And you've got that spectrum, so we try and work across it.
Exactly. And then also, just to kind of give you the other context, these agents provide up to 24/7 coverage. So for some of the clients, the agents are working all weekend, basically. And we've got some clients that have said, no human can actually do this because it's covering 24/7, monitoring this platform to see if someone checked in or not. And I'll come back to that one, basically, all the way to evening activations, all the way to early morning activations, all the way to regular scheduled reports coming to the CEOs. So the point I wanted to make here is it's working where all your systems are, number one. And then number two, it's working when your team aren't, basically, right? Like that's the kind of key thing. So
I get going. The suspense is killing me, Aalok.
yeah, go for it. Okay, so in terms of the interactive agents, if we think about it, there's lettings agencies, franchise businesses, energy suppliers, like wellness companies, pharmacy chains, events companies, home improvement, property education. They're all using interactive agents. Let's give some examples of how it can be. For example, within lettings agencies, it can be actually like dealing with tenants, for example, like understanding what their issues are, helping go through everything, all the different details. So the point here is it can actually like understand all the information from the client and be able to like triage them as to what the issues are, and then with the appropriate knowledge, actually talk them through different solutions, basically. That's one spectrum that can be. Another spectrum can be where it's actually providing initial reach out. Let's just say, for example, for a training company, when they have lots of people opt in online, what it will actually do is engage the person, and there's some specific steps they do. I won't go through everything, but like it actually increases the response rate, basically. And what that will then do is it'll connect with them, say, you're still interested in this thing, let's do this, fantastic. I'll trigger you to another place, basically. And the companies that have been doing this, they've actually grown their usage 6 times, basically, right? Because they found it's like working, way more cost effective, and at the same time, very, very fast. That's very, very exciting. What we've also found for like, say, some franchise companies, in terms of like reaching certain different people, it's able to like reach people in a much faster way by actually like going through a prospect list and actually going through the details there, basically, right?
Aalok, the important there, I just want to mention it, just go back slightly. So a lot of people don't understand is that, take us for example, right? So we have different plans, and you have the agents and you have credits. So that's what they're using, different systems and platforms. And there's a cost, there's a variable cost. So some of that we build in, But if you're sort of a power user, or in the case Alex mentioned there, you are, using 6 times as much, you've got a variable cost. So it's going to cost more money over time. AI is not like software as a service. You're not spending, £50 a month, all you can eat, and that's the end of it. It's a variable cost. You're using tokens on it. But there's always an ROI. There's always a benefit for doing it. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it.
Yes. So on average, with the metrics, we found it's 75 to 95% cheaper than the person doing the equivalent task. And it's adding at least 2 to 3 dimensions that the human could not do in the way of concrete insights about that call and complete CRM updates from the details within there, basically, right? So that's the whole point. So I think the key thing there to understand is, like, for example, one company is doing 1,800 calls a day to reach to their people, right? Another one is like got a huge, more than 7 million pipeline of like inactive customers, and the AI is working its way through reacting them, basically. Another one is looking at 7-day out of hours coverage, in the evenings and stuff like this. So I think the other one is, like, for example, it's like a wellness company, and what's happening is there's people that are supposed to complete their onboarding, which provides some medical information, that don't do it, and the AI is chasing them for it to help streamline and smooth the experience. So you can see that, like, the interactive agents going from SMS to voice to WhatsApp to live chat, these are very, very powerful, and they can actually, just unlock value very, very quickly for people, basically, whether it's ROI from redeploying people, it's ROI from preventing customer churn, from engaging them, or it's ROI from actually reaching customers you couldn't react before. And the other important thing is that we're finding is more and more people are actually using this as part of a getting to know customer and upsell process, where they will actually ask questions that they would never fill out on a web form, basically, right? Even for ourselves, for example, like we're looking at for our net promoter score, if you ask someone to fill out some things on a form, they ain't touching it. But if you talk to an AI on the phone, they will actually give much more information and context within that, basically, right? So I think the key thing to understand is that, like, when you're looking at, let's just pick one example, right? There's one use case, which I'm going to talk about for an investment for a interactive agent, basically. There's been a 16x volume of growth that happened. And then the average cost per call was 19 pence, basically, versus what it would normally be with £1.67 to £2.33. So that's a huge saving, basically, right? For that to happen. And you're still getting a really good, engagement rate of 24%. And you've actually got, like, more 11% people interested in what's going on, basically, right? So that's like some key high level, interesting elements that from within there that can be quite cool to kind of see in that kind of regard, basically, right? Let's go to the next category, which is action agents. Anything you want to touch on from the first bit before I move to action agents bit?
No, I think the only point I'd say there is that I think it's easy to gloss over, but voice is, I think, it's the most powerful new form of data any business can aggregate. So if you're not recording inbound, outbound phone calls, meetings, if I turn up to a meeting and someone's got an meeting note taker, whether you can see it, fireflies, whether you can't, like a granola, then it's bonkers. You should record everything you possibly can, because you can analyze it now. You couldn't analyze phone calls before until 2 years ago, even a year ago properly, because there was just too much volume. And now you can. LLMs, is a clue in the name, large language models, are very good at understanding and analyzing and parsing language. So there's a huge amount of value in conversations. Make sure you captain.
Exactly. So then the next category we're talking about is action agents, right? Which is executing tasks across systems, moving data, filling forms, updating systems, writing records, that handles the workforce, like we talked about. So one of the fastest growing use cases within our business is computer use. What that is it's an agent within our business where basically it's got its own, desktop. It can actually open up a browser, open up different things, or open up a software. You can work on that computer, log all the steps it's done, and then it can actually then create files, download things, and that can be pushed to different places and different things like this. Right? For example, this week, I did a proof of concept I was discussing with a company. They have 100 analysts doing things manually where they log into a system, download different things, put the information in, and I was doing a proof of concept for them on like how a computer use agent could do that. Just to give you context, people say, oh, I could do this myself. One of our engineers made the prompt for one of the job systems. How many pages was it, Piers? The prompt for that.
Well, I thought, knowing some of our previous prompts, it might be 10, but it was 3 times that. More.
34 pages. And just to give you context, basically, right? This is error handling. This is the different things, because just to give you the detail, like this isn't made up from thin air. Many softwares have quite poor UI. So it's got like little iframes that pop up, or it's got horizontal scrolling, or even some of these legacy softwares time out. So our engineers had basically built in all the error handling for that. And the AI is also intelligent to be able to manage those different bits. But what this means is that you can then get that task done with zero human time, basically, right? And that can be done 24/7, 365. So if we're thinking about that, we can.
And that's the point I like about the buy, my favorite subject at the moment, buy build, is that you turn up trying to build that, you have no idea that is what it's going to take. That's taken us 3 years.
You don't know what you don't know. You think, oh, this LLM can do this. No, it actually can't. It actually fails on these things. Or what do you do when the page hangs for this much time? How do you handle with that? You don't know how to do that, basically, right? Like, and so the question is, do you want to spend an expensive research project trying to figure it out, or do you want to just get the work done? That's my question, basically, right? Like, so if you want to just get the work done, go for it, basically. But if you want to basically almost take a high school student, which is basically what it is, teach them everything, wait for them to grow a bit, and then wait them to come into your business, that's kind of what you're doing. You're trying to build everything yourself, basically, right? The whole point here is get things done straight away. So let's talk about action agents, some examples, right? Well, one example would be for scheduling different jobs and tasks on a system for many different field people working in a field services place. In this system, there's 14 phases, 3 safety gates, and no API, basically, right? Like, so that was like to handle that one. Another one can be for like home care services, monitoring the visit. So the point is basically making sure that like if somebody didn't turn up on time, it'll help follow up with them and kind of look at that place. I'll come back to that one. Another one then is like for a pharmacy group, it's basically like reading the scheduler that they've got and actually understanding everything going from there. And again, healthcare companies are fantastic because they don't want to have an API sometimes, basically, right? And you wonder why, basically, right? I think the days of companies holding their clients' data hostage is going to be like running down. And then other ways computer use has been done is like, for example, M&A research. For some people, we've actually got it going to companies' house, different places, putting together information that there wasn't available before, or even an executive search, basically, right? So that's these kind of examples. So if we go into a bit more information on an example, so one care provider, basically the agent is monitoring the dashboard where basically the employees would clock in and it would identify people who are late and missed to turn up to their appointment. Now imagine this is a 24/7, 365 business, basically. So you need people going there. So for every person that's in the field going to turn up to stuff, you've got to have a manager checking on what's going on. But how much does a manager cost at 11 p.m. at night on a Friday, or at 4 a.m. on a Saturday morning, or at 9 p.m. on a Sunday evening? Do you have that, basically? No, and then if the person didn't turn up, can you message the carer directly via their platform, like no new system? Can you also escalate to a coordinator in Teams and log every action? No, there was no API for that, and a computer use system does that, basically. And so what we found was like a 28% reduction in late visits. And what there was like
Again, it's like glossing over these numbers, isn't it? Right? It's like we did some research. We'll talk about maybe another time. Mystery shopping, where gyms and clinics, they're not answering the phone. So it's like I did a keynote at the Fitness Tech Summit the other day, and I was saying to him, you built a gym, you bought the assets, you bought all the kit, you've got light, rate, heating, you've got a team, you've got people, you've got maintenance, you've got support, you've got training, gyms, classes. You built it all. It's cost you a fortune, all these businesses. Somebody contacts you or somebody goes to try and do what they're supposed to do and they don't do their job properly. And now you can change that by, 10, 20, 30, 40%. That's massive customer experience improvement, or quite often cash that just falls straight through to your bottom line because you've already got the fixed cost.
Exactly. And what the whole point is that like there's also unexpected outcomes. What they found was that like the people that were working and going to the place, they started proactively phoning the managers to report lateness, because to avoid getting an automated message from the AI agent that would message them. So this is a behavioral change they did not expect to happen. And the people, and they actually said that we've been blown away by the results across our branches, basically, right? Like there's no way our humans could actually even do this. And to give you a factor, each check that the AI is doing, because basically what it's doing, the computer use agent logs into the system, scans everything, then it shuts itself down and opens up a new computer use agent that logs in, checks everything, shuts itself down, opens up a new one. So 24, it goes like that, basically, right? Tell me an employee that is able to do that in that kind of regard, basically. So that's super exciting.
So before you do the next one, so implement our podcast. Want to remind you who we are and what we do. So we're coming probably the only company like ours I come across that can deploy AI workers in your business. So we've got lots of information on our website, implementai.io. We've got a resource center there. You can talk to Ava on our website if you want to hear, a voice aid and interact with it. We've got this podcast, lots of information. So please follow us on YouTube, like, subscribe, tick the bell to make sure we've got lots of other content as well, not just this. We've launched our command product as well, which is lots of content there about that. So please follow us. And again, please leave a review on Apple. Back to you, Aalok.
Yeah, so I'm just going to just touch on two little things, basically. So just finishing off with the action agent, just to show you, for example, each time the agent checked it, for example, it was like almost like, nearly, a fraction of like nearly 7 times cheaper than a person doing it. And that's just with the basic hours of a normal working in the day-to-day time, not evenings and weekends, which people cannot possibly do. So that's crazy.
We often try and compare, right, agents to humans, right? And they don't always do exactly the same thing, obviously, but you can't, because they might be doing the same hours, they can do more hours, but they'll do things more proactively, like update CRM that humans don't do. It's very hard, isn't it?
No, so there's 2 ways, right? So like everyone's a business owner, right? So the question is like, economically, if this does it versus this do it, do I save money, basically, right? Or can I redeploy that person? The answer is always yes, basically, right? And the second thing is, but it can also do things your team couldn't do and create some of those unforeseen positive benefits, right? Like where you've got all the systems updated. So for example, just to bring one thing back, command, we just talked about at the beginning for the executive layer, one of the most popular use cases we've got is a scheduled auditor agent. What that is that every day or every week, it will log into a system, let's say CRM, let's say email, let's say Teams meetings, and it will review for a specific missing thing. So it could be, for example, reviewing the CRM new updates this week. Are they subscribed? Because many times they're not added to the system and they're not subscribed, right? And then second thing, do they have all the fields completed? Does it have the company names, details, all that kind of stuff like this? So, or for example, another person would be a cross-sell agent, which would be like, all the new customers that bought this week, do we have all the information on them? What other services could they buy that was not, that could be identified to them, and update the system with potential pipeline checks for those people? Or it could be like, all the calls that happened today, or all the emails that happened, who is like at risk of churn or whatever like this. So those scheduled actions on a regular basis. So that's an action agent via command, basically, right? To kind of give you that kind of context. So let's move to the kind of next bit, right? So we talked about interactive agents, 2-way conversations. We just now talked about action agents executing tasks across systems. Let's talk about analyst agents, one of my favorite ones, basically. This is typically where you can see things which people cannot do. So one facilities management company has got an email analyst running. What that is doing is it's analyzing multiple inboxes. Hands up if you're a company owner which has multiple email inboxes, which many people are monitoring, and are some of them shared inboxes. And the wonderful thing about shared inboxes, no one person is primarily responsible. And what do we know what happens if no one person is primarily responsible? Balls get dropped, basically, isn't it? Right? And it's not because anyone means to, it's because like someone's doing this shift to this shift, but then they forgot to action this. Or some of the things I've seen myself is some businesses have people where they file things as complete, but they were never actioned at all. We did this thing with a discovery with one company where we actually got the command agent to analyze all the commercial opportunities. Basically, it went through the whole inbox, all the sent emails, and all the inbound emails, and which ones didn't have a reply. So this is the question you asked me before. We've got this commercial sweep prompt as part of, it's a command basically, as part of AOS command. And what this will do is it'll go through your inbox over the last basically 3 years, all the email where it looked like a commercial opportunity, where nobody replied, who dropped the ball, what's the context of it, and who didn't go from it. And so sometimes you see things where all the emails were marked as complete, but no one was answered, and you see it's 742 days since the last reach out and stuff like this. But so this company's got an email analyst to prevent this happening. And what this is doing is it connects to multiple inboxes, so it can review all of them. And then let's just say, for example, like the average cost per analyzing, each email, it's 86% cheaper than people doing it, basically, right? And what it's able to do is able to like categorize new signups, journal inquiries, service restarts, cancellations, complaints, and it's also like adding in now voice, where we do call analysis on top of the email analysis, so you get the 2 levels of information within there, basically, right? So that's super interesting and super exciting, where you can kind of see where the opportunities are from within there.
And that's something that I think we do a lot of, actually. So it's not just across your existing like software as a service system, it's your voice system, it's your VoIP system, it's your phone system, it's your call recordings and your email and your meeting notes. Those things. I mean, recorded phone calls are like, there's gold in them there mountains.
Yeah, and it pays for itself very quickly. Another example of call analyst, the multi-site group basically, right? So what happened here is it's connected to all the phone calls coming going through, which the team are doing, the humans are doing basically. And we can do two things. We can actually measure the branch performance. How successful are they at booking appointments? And we can see branch A is doing 75%, where 75% of the time the team is actually trying to book the appointment on the call, versus branch D, 14.1% times the team member is trying to offer an appointment. There's a big difference there, basically, right? On top of that, there's also like more than £230,000 worth of missed treatment opportunities, which are people that said, oh, I'd like to book this treatment, or how much is this thing, but they didn't book that appointment. So you can actually get the whole list. So the point here is that you got the, you got the ability to like surface all those different elements. A different business, a manufacturing business, we're analyzing all the calls where there's rush orders. For example, if somebody inquired and says, oh, can I get this piece of work done by tomorrow or 2 days? There's supposed to be a rush order fee, basically, right? And I think it detected like more than 900 missed times that this happened, where the rushed order fee was not applied. How much revenue is being lost there, or at the very least, goodwill, which should be measured? Because if we're going to do you a favor as a business, basically, right, the customer should know that they had a favor done for them and the value of that favor, basically, right? In that regard. So whether it's like lost goodwill or lost revenue, it's the same thing, basically, right? So the point here is that like, you've got the ability to like have these analyst agents kind of like going through so many different things, whether it's analyzing the phone calls, analyzing the emails, analyzing, the phone calls, also like analyzing signals. So we've got businesses where for certain basically data lists that they give us, we have to research to see any new news on those people, any new information. And if it meets certain criteria, then it will kind of like go and do an action to reach out.
So it's also analyzing the things that you wouldn't normally think you need to analyze, like your shadow notes.
Exactly. So shadow notes is basically the analysis I just told you is like quite general and specific, linked to commercial objectives, like, who is a missed sales opportunity or who could have bought these other things. Shadow notes is basically a mode of analysis that the reports can create, is basically where are there power shifts? Where are there people who are blocking things? Where are the relationship temperature shifts? Like we've seen certain things where we captured off books payments, we've captured certain people holding customers hostage, we've surfaced certain suppliers basically almost trying to sabotage relationships, we've surfaced certain managers in different businesses trying to actually like create their own little fiefdom. Like, and the thing is, as a CEO or executive, you would never know these things, because what gets reported to you in one meeting or to your team member below you's meeting to a different one will never come up to you. But with this, if you've got the call analyst, for example, or the email analyst, and you've got a command, you can get command to actually like show you those things, or you can have scheduled reports which already surfaces those things automatically, basically, right? So I think the key thing is like the amount of insight you're able to have within your system is very powerful. And we started work with some very interesting and exciting clients, internationally, where they want to actually understand more about the customers, want to reactivate more people, and they also want to analyze each of their customers and see what the cross-sell potential is. Because we saw with one company that there's like a tiny fraction of their business is cross-sell internally and cross-sell across multiple locations, basically, right? Because they've got different complementary services they could sell. And having the AI, which is able to actually like do it within the location level where you can identify the cross sells and reactivate, but then also at the group level to see people from one location could be referred to the second location, basically, because they said something in a meeting. That could not be done by an initial person, basically.
And that's why so when we started this business, we were strategically as well, because we did lots of pilots. This is what customers are asking us. They wanted teams of agents, right? So we talked about interactive action analysts. So you might have an analyst agent that's looking for signals, it's finding information, it's finding opportunities. And then you might have an action agent that might go and log into a system and do something. And then an interactive agent might go, okay, well, let's go and talk to that person or email them or WhatsApp them. So you need teams of agents. When you've got a point AI system, a vertical AI, we had an example recently, which is the customer we won, and we'll look forward to working with them, which was in storage. And they had a supplier that did a voice agent. And I was kind of like, okay, well, what's wrong with the voice agent? Well, we don't really know what's going on. I said, what are you talking about? Why can't you analyze the calls? Oh, they don't have an analyst agent. Sorry. So we have the call agent, the analyst agent, the agent that can then, use that information to write some one-to-one marketing material or email it or update a CRM. You need the ability to deploy teams horizontally across businesses, because you don't know, do you, Aalok, where the second order issue is often going to arise when you deploy an AI.
Your employees don't just have a mouth, right? They got ears too, they got eyes, and they got hands, right? You know what I mean? Like, so you have to be able to like do everything, isn't it? Right. So we recognize this early on. That's why we built the system where you've got almost like basically an AI knowledge worker, right? Which can do different things. They can work in teams. And the final thing I want to also touch on basically is that like one thing that we saw is like our system is very powerful. So we're going to be launching a certification program where people can become, agent operators, agent configurators, and agent architects. And that will be as part of our, like a, certification program, so they can actually run it themselves within the companies, but then also as part of a reseller program and introducer program, which we're launching later on in the year. We have a partner program already, but the reseller will come later on. But the key thing to understand here is like it's very, very powerful. And one thing I started doing recently is like we actually started turning some of those prompts, like for example, that 34-page prompt for the computer use agent, it creates a wonderful process map. And in that process map, you can see all the things that are being done. And then what that allows the business owner to do is like saying, okay, that's fantastic. Can we also add in this functionality into the system? And then we can add that in to expand it. Same thing was a very nice call I had with a client of ours, and they were expressing some frustration around a particular thing. And the issue was that they didn't realize, they thought the agent was doing a very basic thing, but they didn't realize we had to put all that in place first to understand the needs of the customer. But then to add in like more than 7 layers of functionality, which is like, let's say there's like a problem with item 1, item 2, item 3, where it can diagnose and go through it, we can add those because we've already built that functionality. So that's where showing them that process map from the kind of agent configuration, like, wow, I've got all this and I can even have these things. And based on this issue, it'll ask these questions. Based on this issue, it'll ask these questions, go through this knowledge base and do it. So it's very powerful. So what people don't understand is like, number one, it can be deployed relatively quickly, but number two, the capabilities can be expanded very fast as well, basically. So we're talking about real workers that deliver client value in 3 ways. Every agent has to be measured against revenue, capacity, or experience. Revenue is basically new revenue generated, conversion rate improvement, average deal size lift, sales cycle reduction, or revenue per agent deployed. So the whole point here is like that's helping you make money or stop losing money from churn or something in a very clear way.
But often, just on that, I'll say it again, it's reactivating or finding missed opportunity. It's revenue you should have generated, but the ball was dropped.
There's an insurance company that we came across that like basically we analyzed their calls, and like from 32% of calls, there was a missed cross-sell opportunity where one type of insurance was mentioned and they should be offered 2 or 3 other things, but they weren't being offered that, right? This is fundamental. This kind of stuff, if that's done, like the best deployments are even just a few agents which do those things day in, day out, every single time across everybody, and it gives a lot of opportunity. Second one is capacity. So people don't realize ROI in this way. You can actually redeploy your team members because basically, so for example, one business, they've got people answering phone and emails, but then they need to actually get them to visit sites and see what issues are with the sites physically. But the problem is that the team is say busy doing emails and calls. They say, we don't got time to go to this site. So the business owner is like, can you help me redeploy those people basically, right? So in this situation, the ROI is that the people's capacity is free to go and work on more value-added things. So it's either tasks automated, hours saved by week, response time reduction, throughput per FTE, cost per task, basically, right? Example of like, the AI is doing 41 checks a day per day, which the humans could not do, or you're doing, like 800 calls a day, which would be normally, 8 to 12 callers would need to do that kind of stuff, essentially, right? Third one is experience for customer and employee. This is like CSAT, NPS movement, first contact resolution, customer churn reduction, employee satisfaction, time to service value. So the point is, you get like a 62% drop in like, on call, like missed opportunities, you get, different, employees are feeling much more looked after and proactively seen. And the whole point is that like, cold prospects that you were like trying to reach out to will re-engage with you. So all of those are like clear value for you. And coming back to like the operating time, these agents run all the way from midnight to midnight, basically. And depending on some people, they wanted to run at 6 a.m. I've got some other clients that want to run it at 6 p.m. in the day. Got other clients that want to do it during the whole day, 24/7. You've got your choices, basically, of when you want to do your...
You're there when your customers want you to be, not when you can be.
All your reports come to you every time at this time without you having to do it. So our target customer and our client is basically a non-technical business owner. Like they're just like, look, I don't care how complex this is. I just want this thing done, basically, right? I want it done predictably, and I want it done at a cost that makes sense for me, and I want to get the additional benefits from it. That's what I want, basically, right? And then that's what we work to help do it. So whether that means that we need to like integrate into Royal Mail and DPD so we can spot, misdelivery triggers, or it means that we need to actually, log into a field service management thing and spot all the different issues on the system.
Or you might have a point AI solution or a CRM that's trying to do AI, as they all are, and it's not one or the other. We can integrate into those as well. They can do one piece. You need to understand where the support handoffs are clearly, but we can integrate into other systems, and that's what we're beginning to do. This sort of kind of point systems interop is going to become more important in this game.
Exactly. And like, for example, your team can be messaged in Teams and updated by the AI agent, or can be sent an email or whatever that with their report. All the different things can be done. Or, for example, like in Salesforce, like the record can be read and everything can be updated. So I think today, like we've shown that, ARS is the operating system for the digital workforce, right? You start with your insights, go to your action, and it goes across many, many sectors. So I think like we've shown you that like, there's real revenue that can be done, real savings verified, real scale, and also like real interesting ways to like, expand and grow across more places, basically.
We don't go into the detail, obviously, because we want to, it's our customer's IP, but you can get the idea of the value that's being created. I think if you're listening to this, we do apologize. Your head probably does hurt because there's a lot of information there.
If I speak, well, it will work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need to play Aalok splits back like 0.8 times. But I think what we might do, Aalok, at some point is ask a customer or two to come on actually, and then they can go into the detail because it's their solution. So
one thing we find is people sometimes know what their competitors know what they're doing, and I respect and understand that basically. But there are some I'm quite happy to share, basically.
Yeah, I mean they are creating like a competitive advantage. So we'll probably do that. So we've got some great guests coming on over the next few shows. So look out for those. Some real leaders actually in the industry. Not that we haven't had them before, we've had a few. And the podcast is growing very, very quickly. So again, please like, subscribe, leave us a review on Apple. I hope this has been useful. Practical AI, some real examples. We'll have more and more of these because we're growing pretty quickly. Thank you for listening, or thank you for watching, and we'll see you again in about 2 weeks.
See you then.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Implement AI podcast. If you're interested in learning more about how we can assist you and your business in leveraging AI for growth and efficiency, visit our website at implementai.io. Don't forget to subscribe to the Implement AI podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or wherever you listen to stay updated on future episodes. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.